creators feeling like they're going to run out of video ideas, well, that's a myth. Yeah. And we're here to debunk that. In reality, if you have the right mindset and the right strategy, the possibilities are going to be limitless for you. Yeah. You heard me right. You can have a never-ending stream of YouTube video ideas. Want to know how? Let's dive right in.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast presented by vidIQ. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yep, we get it. We are here today to help you change that.
Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's so great to see you here for another Video Creators Podcast episode brought to you by vidIQ like we do every Monday. We're just hanging out, sharing advanced growth tips and tactics, next level strategy, helping you grow your business, reach more people, and change their lives. I'm hanging out today with Sam and Blake, two of the YouTube strategists here on the team. Guys, I feel like a lot of times when I talk to creators, one of the roadblocks that's very common is people are like, you know what? I'm running out of ideas. You guys ever experience that?
Yeah. All the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there are some real simple strategies that we can kind of dive into here that would be very practical for people. A couple things to really remember when you do feel like this, because I feel like just as a creator in general, you know, it's very common to feel I'm not doing well. I'm not getting the views. You know, I don't have any new ideas. And some of that I feel sometimes comes when you look at your competition around you. Any thoughts as to what's at the root, really, of this mindset?
Yeah, I think for me, sometimes it's really easy to kind of put the magnifying glass on yourself. And so when you're starting your channel or you're creating content, like it's always kind of this outpouring of like, what I want to make and what I want to do. And then eventually you run out of those ideas and it's kind of like, I've already done everything that I've wanted to talk about. I don't know what to talk about now. So what can really help is to kind of shift that magnifying glass to your audience. And then I think that's kind of a route. If you don't know exactly who you're talking to and who your audience is, and not audience in kind of like a broad scope, but like the individual person who is your ideal subscriber. Like if you don't know who that person is and who you're talking to, that can really lead to just that kind of ideas drought that we see.
It always comes back to target audience, which is something that we say a lot.
I was going to say it, so I want to let you say it though.
I think of Sam every time I hear the word target audience, so to be quite honest, because we've said it so much here on the podcast. I'm sure the audience is used to it by now.
Yeah, it's true though.
Yeah. So like, what are some of those things that you would dig into when you're thinking and make this really practical for somebody?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, the reason why this is so important is because, you know, I'm trying to think in the terms of what my audience is thinking. I'm trying, and the reason people run out of ideas, I find a lot of times they just haven't thought clear enough about who this person is. And when I've done consultations and I've had many people come in frustrated, like, I don't know what to do next, I'm kind of burnt out. The more we dig into the questions of who their audience is and thinking more than just like, oh, it's someone who, you know, wants to learn how to, you know, code or wants to learn how to do this. When they start thinking beyond that a bit more and into the emotions and all that sort of the mental aspect of it, I see light bulbs go off in their eyes and they're just like, oh my gosh, I can think of like 5 new ideas now. It's like, cool. That's now you're thinking in terms of what is the deeper why to this than just, oh, I want to learn this. It's like, no, there's something behind that really. And the easiest things to ask is like, when this person's your audience, your ideal viewer, when they're coming to look for you, why? What are they dealing with? What's that fear behind what they want to learn or what they're trying to become? What is the worry behind that? What's the desire behind that? What's the emotion behind that? Why do they love cars so much? Or why are they afraid to jump in and try this new diet for the first time? Asking yourself those questions will, you know, instead of giving someone the best diet, I can think about, you know, why the reason behind why you're afraid to try this diet, you know, the reason you can't stick to a diet or the reason why you're afraid to try new foods like this, or how to enjoy a new diet and reach that weight loss goal you've always dreamed of. Those are the deeper whys we're looking for. Yeah, I feel like
you're 100% spot on there. And like, really what's at stake for them and what is their biggest struggle? And then when you're thinking about that, why truly can't they have that? what is the thing that's preventing them from it? And as well as like, how do they even feel about that? And I feel like sometimes people avoid the emotion side of it. And I encourage creators to lean into that, even if it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that can add, I mean, when we think about like titles and thumbnails and, we talk a lot about curiosity and spark, the intrigue. And the first question I always get is like, okay, cool. But what does that mean? Like, what is sparking curiosity? What is intriguing? And so if you know that deeper level thing where it's like, well, yeah, it's not about the actual food. It's about how the food makes you feel, or maybe like avoiding the pain point that you feel when it comes to trying the new diet or whatever the example is going to be. That's the thing that really is more intriguing for your audience, and they're going to relate to that more. But I think as a creator, that also gives you more ideas too, which is interesting.
Yeah, and it's even like you could even go down the road of how do you want them to feel, right? There's so much opportunity there, and for myself, going through a target audience questionnaire, whether it's for this channel or whether it's for my own channel, or whether it's, looking at a client's, I'm always looking at what is the thing that's preventing somebody from getting that thing, and then go a layer deeper. And when you start to really lay that out, and there's such value in doing this kind of an exercise at the very beginning, really fleshing out what the story is of this person, because you'll see content ideas in it. And if you don't capitalize on that initially, when you do come upon what you perceive to be a block, go back to this exercise. What haven't you talked about? What other perspective to it or angle maybe hadn't you thought of? Could also be a very valuable exercise.
Yeah. If I could add to that too, I think something that's super simple and I think actually kind of overlooked sometimes is pick an age for your target audience, and not like a why, because we talk about this a lot in consultations and things. We'll kind of be like, yeah, what's kind of like the demographic, what's the age range that we're looking at? And sometimes I get, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, everybody, if the young people are here, if old people are here, that's great. Sometimes it's just a really big age range. Maybe it's like, maybe like 18 to like 30. And I would imagine an 18-year-old, when we think about these desires and fears and stakes and, what's the thing that they really ultimately want with your channel, an 18-year-old is going to have way different looking stakes than a 30-year-old even. So I think if you can really decide on like what age is this person, they're going to have really unique struggles and pain points and things, which when they see that pop up on their home screen and they have the option to maybe click in or not, that's going to be so personal to them that they're like, yes, like that's exactly where I'm at kind of in my life journey. I got to watch this because this is perfect. This is for me.
Yeah, I love that. So what would be another place that you could maybe get some ideas specifically related to your audience?
Yeah, I think your comment section is the one place for sure. We encourage engagement. That's how you're going to build community on the platform. So if people are leaving comments, a lot of times they might ask for something. They might say something you might have missed. It's a great way to check and see, are people liking my content? Are they resonating with it? Comments, and even in that, but also comments even on your community posts as well too. But I'd also even argue checking, you can check related niches, look at other people's channels, see what they're commenting under those. If you have shared audiences in some way, they might touch up on a topic you might have touched on, but the comments below that could be, oh, I wish we would have mentioned this, or what do you think about this? And that way you can kind of gain ideas on a broader spectrum of people within your audience who might be looking for that exact same thing as well.
Yeah, if I could add to that too, I would pay attention to like the quality of comments too. I think oftentimes a good sign for you as the creator is the higher quality comments. So like if we're kind of running with the diet example, maybe you touch on the fear of X, Y, or Z in your video. If they jump in and kind of share a part of their story, like, oh, they leave a comment, I'm glad that you talked about this fear because that's exactly what I'm struggling with right now. Pay attention to those little markers too, because that's a good sign that you are really resonating with your audience and you're kind of like hitting the nail on the head and, really making the right content for the right person.
Yeah, I'm curious, even for the audience right now, if you were watching this on YouTube, we do have the comment section there where you can actually leave a comment, because we're not being dismissive in saying, hey, this isn't a real thing. This is a real roadblock for a lot of creators. We just feel like there are some strategic ways to actually tackle this roadblock when it does rear its ugly head. But I'm curious, though, if this is something that you really do struggle with, let's say it's going on right now, tell us a little bit about what's going on. How does it make you feel, when you go to create content? What do you think of, or what are you not getting? I know the three of us would love to know a little bit more insight in that to really help you. And then also kind of like, I'm thinking, you can take commenting to another level by also surveying your audience. That can also prove really, really valuable, especially when you start to kind of identify what some of those roadblocks are. I would do that almost yearly if you're not. Just create a Google form. Make it simple. Don't make them write essays. Make it simple for them, but also give them a little bit of opportunity to leave you some written comments as well. And you'd be surprised at how many content ideas you can actually get from that. Yeah, I know we do it here at Video Creators every January. Yep. What else, guys?
Yeah, well, I think the thing that's got me thinking about, like, this is all so good so far. And I feel like, I'm thinking of the creator who's like, okay, this is good. I've got my person in mind, but like, I've been making the same type of video for over and over and over, and I'm tired of it. I think my audience is tired of it. And I think when I think about that person and how do I get more content ideas? Like, how does that happen? I think it can be kind of freeing if you really land on like, what are some of the desires and the fears and some of this stuff that we're talking about. It can be freeing because then you can kind of zoom out a little bit and be like, okay, if I look at this and then I kind of compare it against like my value proposition, everything else comes back to value proposition too. But when I look at those two things, it kind of frees you up to be like, okay, well, there are many different ways that I can deliver this type of information to either solve that pain point or make them feel the certain way, or, help encourage them from this pain point that we know. That there can be a lot of different ways to approach that. So, whether that's more like a talking head type of video, you've done that forever, maybe try to do more like a story video where you're outside of your studio, like trying something different. If you approach it that way, where you can still deliver to your audience, it can look a whole number of different ways. You can get super creative with that. So I think it can be pretty freeing too.
Yeah, let's make this super practical now. You brought up content idea generation. So like, Blake, I'm curious, like, what would be some of the more practical ways that you could implement some of the stuff that we've even talked about?
Yeah, there's one thing that I learned. I went to school a little bit to study songwriting, and one thing I learned when I was there was, ideas can come and go really quickly, and we'll think, okay, I'll remember this later. But if you don't write it down, you'll forget it very quickly. Same comes to YouTube. And when I started to do YouTube, it would happen all the time. I'd think of an idea, I'm like, oh, I'll do that. Come home, have no idea what I was thinking about. So it's just as easy as like, if you have a note on your phone, which you can write down quickly what that thought was, even just roughly, have a notebook, anything like that. That way you can jot them down, even if you don't use them. Idea like vomiting is what I would call it, is like the best way to kind of get it out of your head. Like sometimes, I look at this the same way I look at my journey on YouTube. You got to turn the tap on, let all the dirty water flow out before the clean water comes. Same with songwriting, same with, making a video. Getting those ideas out, even if they're bad, for the time being, clears space for those good ideas to even show up.
You know what I've always done, and this could be a little practical thing for you. I have a specific journal that I keep a lot of my, YouTube stats and things, and just content ideas. Like as I'm actually, going through and creating videos, what I do is my idea section is at the back of the journal, and I work backwards on pages, because for me, and it's just the way my mind is, I would need to set X amount of pages aside. And what if I fill them up and I need more? Then my book is out of order. So I start on the back and work that way in, and idea vomit, just like what you said. I think is super, super practical, or people call it brain dump. right? Having
Yeah.
those brain dump pages.
I do the same thing. You guys don't want to see my Notion page. It's a mess. I try to keep it organized though. And actually, I feel like what's helped me a lot too with those ideas is maybe you start to go down the rabbit hole and like, start to maybe script or just ideate some more of this video. What's helped me is to write down a shot list too. And this has actually kind of helped with the idea generation as well, because there are some times where it's like, maybe you're doing an education type of video and you could talk about something for 10 minutes and it's like, okay, great, done. I can upload this. But I'll kind of explore some of the different shots. Like, could I visually show this instead of just talking about it? Would that make this a better video? Maybe I should do that. What would that look like? Does that require me going and driving to another location to like show this thing? Maybe, but that can kind of also free you up and give you some more ideas as well.
I love that. Another good one is also to update older content. This is something that I dive into with clients all the time. You take a look at, a lot of times when we're doing a consultation or we're working with a new client, we'll go into the library of content. We'll always look at like what performed really well. And usually those videos are like really old. They're much older now. A lot of people have been on the platform for a decade. It's like, what do I talk about today? Well, maybe you actually did a video that actually had some traction, but now it's kind of done. That doesn't mean that you can't do a better video than you did before, because chances are a lot of things are outdated and maybe even some stuff has changed. I know that YouTube styles have definitely changed. Chances are your older version has a really long hook, right? It probably would not do well in today's YouTube verse. So reinvent and update your old content, base it on new insights, new trends, or changes that are out there. I give you full permission to redo something and make it better, or make that part 2 that you never did that you always wanted. That's also a possibility.
I think
I'm excited, both of you, with that.
Oh, this is good. This is all good stuff. I mean, I was just to piggyback on that. I was going to say, even if you're going to kind of like redo or go back and look at an older video that performed well, maybe there's just, if you're able to identify a particular thing that you did that made it do well, how could you kind of steal that and repurpose it and use that for even a completely different type of video? Like maybe for the one that went really far, that was the video that you left your studio and like went out and did some visual storytelling, or maybe there's a story in the first place. How could you steal that and then maybe apply that to a new idea?
Yeah, and I was even thinking too, like you might have a video you've already done and it may not have performed well, but it probably deserves views for whatever reason. Maybe you just did something that didn't resonate with the audience. Maybe it was a long intro. Maybe it was, the audio was terrible. Maybe it was, it was 12 years ago. I don't know, whatever that may be, but it doesn't mean you can't redo it now with a new lens, a new angle, a new update of, understanding how your audience reacts, how, YouTube works, all those sorts of things. So just because it's an idea that didn't do well at the time doesn't mean it was a bad idea. It's just maybe the execution wasn't as where it needs to be at the time. Yeah,
I know creators all the time. They're like, this is a good idea, and I don't know why this video didn't perform. Well, if you're so firmly rooted in that it is a great idea, then do it better. I challenge you to do that. And think about your title and thumbnail first before you turn the camera on. Now if you're watching this, and okay, all of you in the audience, you hear us talk about this all the time. What is the first line of your new video, right? Think about your title and your thumbnail before you craft that hook, before you tell that story to get them to the end, and then where are you sending them out the back door? But it all does start with that idea. You guys can totally redo this. Oh, I'm getting excited. I almost want us to redo something, right?
Yeah. And I got to chime in and just bring us back to target audience like I always do, because if you think it's a good idea, just make sure that your target audience thinks it's a good idea too, because if those things aren't aligned, that's going to stop you from getting the results you want to.
Good point. So what else? Give me another practical idea for the audience here.
I think, you can kind of take a look at the season that we're in. If we're entering into, Christmas time or particular season that may have implications or opportunities for your niche, your type of channel. Maybe you're a sports channel and it's getting to be around August, and I'm thinking of soccer because that's the only sport that I watch, but soccer season starts in August, and so maybe there's like you can capitalize on some of the trending topics and things that are going on right now, and kind of connect that to your channel. That could give you ideas too.
So I need to make a soccer video is what I heard.
Yes. Yeah. Next week's podcast will be soccer themed.
Yeah. I think the same idea even goes, yes, seasonal, but also even within your niche, what are some things that pop up throughout the year, well known? Like I think of any tech channel who maybe the new iPhone's coming out, and every September there's a new iPhone pretty much coming out. So ramping up to that, there could be lots of opportunities to talk about that. Maybe what you're predicting, what the expectation might be, what are the leaks.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, but those things are kind of as it's coming closer, people are excited. They want to know what's going to happen. They're watching, looking for that content. But I even think too, as well, when it comes even when it comes to that, or the seasonal, like the Christmas, that sort of thing, getting that content out just a little bit earlier than when the event is, because by the time it comes, people are already looking for it, and your content's there ready to go.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Being on the front end of a trend is really, really important. So think about it. Like we just recently, in the last couple months, Apple released the Vision Pro, right? And those who were on it right from day one, they were the ones that had the views. It's the same thing with any holidays or anything like that. If you are on the front end of that, you can greatly capitalize on that. If you're not, you're just another one of the many videos out there, no matter how good it really is. So like, what are some other spins? Because sometimes with things like this, let's go to the ideation of it, because that's really what this entire podcast is about, right? Ideation. So what can make you different? I'm just curious. Do you guys have any thoughts? Like, let's say everybody's already done the thing. You really have something to say. How can you stand out, like in a trending topic?
Thing. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say, you go ahead.
Okay, you go ahead.
Oh my goodness.
No, you go.
It's gonna, oh, good Lord.
Okay, I'll go ahead. What comes to mind for me is how could you just have a different perspective? If we're going to talk about tech and maybe the newest iPhone comes out, everybody's going to have the video that's, the top 5 best features. Maybe you have the top 5 worst features. Like maybe you have a different spin.
That's a good idea.
That's interesting that someone will see that and be like, oh yeah, I knew that the newest iPhone did just come out, but this is not what everybody else is covering. It's interesting, stands out. Like I want to click it. I want to watch.
That was pretty much what I was going to say.
But that's a great idea. But I think to really nail that, though, you have to sell it in the thumbnail, right?
Agreed.
And you have to be able to clearly communicate your perspective, what makes you unique in this situation. And I feel like those creators that really nail that win big here. Maybe it's even roasting some of it or reacting to it in some way where everybody's just doing like that 5 ways of this and new features this. You're the reaction person to it, right? And you go full on in, and maybe that's different for you. Yeah. Try something new. What else?
I've even seen people when it comes to iPhones, like the iPhone 14 comes out, the next day the video comes out. What's going to be in the iPhone 15? And it's like immediately. And I'm at that point, I'm like, how are we talking about this already? But it's interesting to me that I'm pulled into it. I'm like, what do you know about the 15 when the 14 came out like yesterday? So
it's so sad that we're wired that way. So sad. All right, so let's keep going here. What are some other ideas for people out there when it comes to content ideation?
Yeah, I think potentially, you can look at other creators.
You guys just want to talk all over each other today.
Oh, did I cut you off?
I love it. They're fighting. They're fighting to talk to the audience. Okay, come on, Sam. Go ahead.
We're competing today. Whoever can
for attention.
Whoever can say the most wins. You can go ahead.
I ruined it.
Okay, I was just gonna say, collaboration is one way. I think the idea of first of all, people run out of ideas. The best way to kind of revamp it, you could share with somebody else. You can share audiences that way too. But even if it's not the same niche, something outside of that niche, maybe a little bit, but somewhat related, that way you're kind of blending the two perspectives of something connected there. But you don't know what the other person might have to offer idea wise that could be fun to add to your channel or vice versa.
Yeah, I love that. We should actually do a collaboration. We should do a collaboration with the vidIQ squad.
Yeah.
That would be fun. If that's something
should do that.
you want us to do, let us know. That could be really good. Maybe when we all go to Vid Summit in the fall, that could be fun.
That's true. We could go
That
live.
could be fun. We could go live. Yes, that would make Caitlin, our producer, very, very happy. Yeah. So I'm curious too, like, how can you, I would love to know some practical ways that you have talked to creators that you've worked with about maybe turning an idea into more.
Yeah.
One thing I'm going to give up. You go.
I'm taking this one.
I almost want Julia to like give you guys score marks and we'll see
Yes.
who's like
who's
got the
the
most at
most.
the end. Okay.
So yeah, I've actually just recently had this conversation this week. I was talking to a guy with a travel channel, and we were just talking about the idea of maybe you have multiple videos that kind of span like an overarching story. Like, you know, what is the transformational moment? What's kind of the goal that the character, you know, the creator, that you are trying to accomplish? Is there a way where we can take almost make it a series? We could take steps in each video. You know, there's kind of like many stories and many resolutions in each episode, but there's this kind of overall, you know, like this creator is going to Norway. He's kind of on this mission. He's trying to find just the best kind of hole in the wall travel experience while he's there. So he's trying a whole bunch of stuff. It's like really expensive. And so instead of just making one video, we could stretch it out into a lot of different videos, and then each stay is kind of its own story.
I like that.
Yeah, for me, one thing I have been doing recently. So, I mean, as I work through I'm working through like a mental health app right now that's dealing with anxiety. And one thing they have me do is like mind mapping around my anxiety. So picking that topic that I'm dealing with right now and trying to figure out the root cause of it. But what I've done that in the past actually for something completely different, for ideation, where I've taken that topic and put it in the middle. And then from that, because I'm so visual that way, I'll pull out and say, okay, what are the different ideas or problems from this one topic? So whether it be, again, we're on the iPhone topic, it's iPhone. Okay, what are some questions about it? You know, is it expensive, or what's going to be new, or, you know, is it fragile, or the worries around that, or, you know, why this over the 13 or something like that. And then keep asking those questions from those questions, and kind of eventually you can come up with multiple ideas around this one topic that you didn't even think of. I've done it for songwriting in itself too. Come up with the title for a song that I have no idea what it's about, and then go from there and see what I can pull out from that topic to flesh out 4 or 5 ideas out of one.
I love that. That makes me think too, like, when you have an idea, and I think that this is kind of one of those things that a lot of creators make a mistake with, is they don't take enough time cultivating the idea. They're like, oh, this is a great idea. Okay, let me go film it. They don't even think about the title and the thumbnail. If by the end of this episode, if you just at least take in that we want you to craft your title and thumbnail first, take that in. But spend more time with your idea, because I really love what you're saying here, Blake. Like, really flesh it out and look at it from every single angle that you possibly can, and maybe break it down further. Like, what's the layer below it? And that would give you many ideas around that particular topic, is what I heard. I feel like something that a lot of people don't really think of, and they rush to content creation with. And this is something I see very common with newer creators that hadn't really thought of approaching their channel with a strategy, is, okay, I'm going to do 5 ways of doing this and 7 ways of doing that, and I've got 10 ways of doing this. I hate to break it to you. People aren't going to remember more than 3. So it's kind of like a little trick that you want to kind of think of, is if I'm not going to remember more than 3, why are you doing 7 ways of doing this and 10 ways of doing this and 5 ways of doing that? People don't click in for that. And I feel like some people are going to just comment a lot right now on that. But I do. But you're not going to keep them to the end. And that's the problem. Because if you're not, that's going to impact how that actually does long term. Okay, so instead of working against yourself, I love that you have 7 ways of doing something, but only give me 3. And instead, make another video with all those great ideas. Don't work against yourself, work for your channel, right? Put all of those ideas and then do what Blake said, really flesh them out even further. And now all of a sudden you've turned one idea into many. And even like what Sam was saying, turning it into a series even, you could do that. And maybe you even make a playlist. And at the end, if you've gotten me to the end and the video has me captivated to the point where it's like, wow, I can't believe this is over already. I want more. And you do an effective call to action right there into a playlist. Well, now you got me, right? What else, guys? What are some other things?
Something that always surprises me is the amount of creators that don't watch YouTube. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always surprised because I like to ask that question.
Yeah, me too.
If we're talking about titles and thumbnails or something, like usually I'll ask, how much YouTube do you watch? Normally it's like, I don't really watch it unless I need to like fix something, or, kind of use it as a search engine, but I don't really watch a lot of YouTube. So that would probably be maybe my last piece of advice. Just watch YouTube, watch other creators, even if they're out of your niche, maybe even preferably out of your niche. I think you can gather ideas for your channel from watching people in a whole other niche. There are certain like little links you can make between different niches and totally different topics of channels where they can do something from a certain perspective, and you can kind of like visualize, oh, well, what if I were to do that sort of perspective for my channel? Could that work? Does it serve my target audience? Does it fit my value proposition? That can unlock a lot of ideas for you too.
I feel like I'm going to put Sam on the spot here. I hope you guys are ready for this.
All right, let's do it.
Blake's like, bring it on. Come on.
Ready.
Yeah. Okay. So make this a little bit more practical. So let's take, Ryan Trahan, your boy, Ryan Trahan.
Who's that?
He doesn't know that he's my boy.
His penny series, right? What do you get from like something like that? How do you use something like that as inspiration? Because we know it works.
I think the question I would ask is, how do we know it works, or what about it works? So I know, because I watch all of his content, he's a great storyteller. I'd say he's like a masterclass in primal branding, things like that.
Yes.
So I would, especially with the story, I would really study how is he telling a story in his videos, and where maybe I have like a cooking channel or something totally different. How could I maybe apply like a good story that obviously it's working for him? What would it look like if I told a good story in maybe a similar sort of format or structure for my cooking channel? What would that look like?
I love that. And then for me too, like I'm going to use one of his, I truly haven't even thought this idea through. So this is literally me thinking out loud. So like you just did, his Shrek video, right? That was just such a brilliant video. But it's a very specific video. So let's take the cooking channel. What is the Shrek idea for your niche, right? And how do you actually tap into that? It's not a fully fleshed out idea, but you guys are nodding, so you're on the same wavelength. Like, what are you thinking, Blake, when I say all that?
The gingerbread man, I'd make something about that.
I love it. Yes. I love it. Right? Yeah. So see, there are ideas from something that's so far outside of your niche. You can find something within content, especially with the people who are really doing it really well on YouTube. I love that.
If I could just add one thing real quick too. I know a question we get a lot is like, oh, it's great for like a Ryan Trahan channel, but like I'm a how-to channel. Like I just teach people how to do something. I would say, great. You should try like expanding your horizons and try a different style of video too. You can tell stories and you can have that slightly different perspective in the way that you're delivering your information. That's not just the 3 tips to help you blah blah blah. Maybe you do it from a different perspective, and it's still you, it's still your channel, it's still your audience, your value proposition. But I would definitely encourage you to experiment.
So let's talk about everybody's favorite topic now, analytics. How do you use analytics for content ideation?
I think we kind of touched on it before as far as looking back at an older video and seeing why did it do well. I think that's an area, if you can, to jump into your analytics and discern that. Maybe it's a title thumbnail thing where you can really kind of evaluate the click-through rate, or maybe even just, I wouldn't even say just the click-through rate, but maybe the number of impressions for that type of video. That can be a good indicator of like, whoa, we broke way outside of our normal bubble for that video. Like that could be a title thumbnail thing if that click-through rate is part of that equation as well. But, maybe we reached a really broad audience with this. Look at your retention. Maybe we had a really good retention. We had a quick hook. We held people's attention well. Maybe we told a story. There are things in your analytics like those that can be kind of those like key indicators of, oh yeah, like that's probably why this one did really well. Now, how can we borrow some of that and apply it to the new video that we're trying to make?
That really makes me think about also like when we work with clients one-on-one on a deeper level, there's a tool. And unfortunately, if you don't have a lot of watch history, so you don't have a lot of people watching right now, this is something that will become a little bit more unlocked once YouTube has more data. But if you do have access to this, it would be going to the analytics tab in your YouTube studio. You have to do this on a desktop. Actually, I'm trying to think if they have it in Studio Mobile. I'm not sure. But you're going to go to analytics, and then you're going to look at the audience tab. And when you're on the audience tab, what YouTube does is it gives you up to 15 channels that your audience is watching right now over the last 28 days. As well as the top 15 videos that they're watching, which can be really helpful because if you kind of know who your audience is looking at and what they're watching, sometimes if you take some of the ideas that we've talked about today, what's the fresh perspective on those videos? Is there a pattern? Is there a reason people are watching that? And is it something that maybe you're not talking about? And then what's your idea? I really think that the key is to not forget about why you were talking to your person. If you're stuck, what's that unique perspective on what's right in front of you? Don't be afraid to experiment. You cannot break your channel. You've heard us say that many times. Now you have tools to pull out of your YouTube tool belt when you're stuck. We know you got this.
Every week, we love to leave you with a power tip, something new that YouTube is doing. And this week, I want to talk a bit about the impersonation policy that YouTube is putting into place. So I don't know about you guys. I see a lot of people mimicking channels on YouTube. And actually, it's kind of gotten a bit scary because some people are now using that name, that whoever it may be, whether it's Mr. Beast, to try to scam other people on the platform, which is kind of sad. So YouTube is now coming in with a policy that makes you clearly state that you are not associated with this channel, whether it's in your channel name, on your handle, to make it obvious. So go ahead, change the banner, make it clearly different. You can also just have like, Mr. Beast _fan as the name, but something to make it really obvious that you're not associated with this person. But anybody who is within this kind of violation of the policy right now, it's okay. YouTube's giving us 60 days to go ahead and revamp that. And you'll get an email saying if you are kind of falling within that violation as well. But I think it's a great thing to add to the platform to keep people safe moving forward. Still feel like you need some more ideas? Well, I got you covered. Here a YouTube strategist, Lennon, digs into how you can take one good idea and turn it into 30 awesome ideas. So go ahead, check that out.